Okay, guys, this is our second webinar for the Run Formula Smile Train Athletes. And today I'm going to talk about phases of training, the four different phases that you'll go through in terms of your training, and talk a little bit about each phase and the where, the when, the why, and the how, and the what of each phase, so you have a little better understanding of your training. First, though, Julie is your fearless leader. Julie is going to say a few words about fundraising, so I'll let her do that.
Hi everyone. I just wanted to check in and say congratulations on getting up to this point in the dark, cold February months. It's currently February 8th, and as you all know, we have the Flash February fundraising contest going on. So I encourage you all to get in on that. There's awesome prizes up for grabs. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. But great work on your fundraising so far, and I'm here to help with anything you need on that end. Back to you, Beth.
All right. Thanks, Julie. It's tag team effort. Okay. So just in case you don't know who I am, oh, excuse me. I am Beth, and I work for the Run Formula. I'm the operations director of the Run Formula, and I am a running coach that and I write all the Smile Train plans and do all the Smile Train athletes, anything that you would need, questions, concerns, training plans. I do all the emails that you get. Those annoying emails that you're getting all the time are from me, as well as these webinars. So in the second webinar, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the different phases of the training, and I'll just get into it. If I can get my presentation, there we go. Okay, so 4 basic phases of training. Base phase, which you guys are actually already through, but we'll talk a little bit about it. Build, overload, taper, and then I'll give you some tips and some information about the key workouts for each of these phases. Okay, so base phase, this is what you started off with. It's the initial phase of each training cycle, about 4 to 12 weeks, depending on how long of a training cycle you have. For the New York City half people, you didn't have a very long base phase, just 4 weeks, because your plan was pretty short. London Marathon, if you started from the very beginning, back in December, you had a bit of a longer base phase. Oh, excuse me. Let me take a drink here. Okay. What is in this phase? Basically, it's just putting in the miles. You're just building the base of a pyramid, if you will, where we do a lot of ZR, which is the recovery zone, and Z1, which is just the aerobic zone work. There's no interval work or hill work, nothing like that. We're just putting in the miles, like I said. Why do we do this? We want to build aerobic fitness, prepare the body to handle more intense training. So especially if you're very new to the sport and just starting into running, you need some time just to get the body used to actually running. So that's what this phase is for. Tips for the base phase, get into the habit of descending the pace for all your runs. So a lot of times what happens is people start off really fast, and then as the run goes, they get more tired and they slow down. And that's basically what we're trying to avoid. So if your log says to do, that 100-minute run is pretty long. If your log says to do a 50-minute run at Z1, and your average heart rate for zone 1 is 140 to 150 beats per minute, try running the first 25 minutes or the first half at 140 to 145, and then the second half, the second 25 minutes at 145 to 150. And as your heart rate rises, you'll be able to descend the pace a little bit, basically start slow, finish fast. That's what we want to do, practice for all of our runs, all of our interval work, and eventually, as we get to our goal, the race itself. So we'll start that right off the bat in Z1 and base phase. a lot of times I get questions, okay, I'm having a hard time keeping my heart rate under control when I go up hills. I'll be running along and I'm doing fine in Z1, and then I get to a hill and my heart rate shoots up to Z2. What do I do? You don't have to slow down just to keep in Z1. If you're doing a Z1 run and you're going up a hill, just keep a steady pace. Don't be too concerned about going outside of your zone. So if you're running a Z1 run, you can go up to Z2, the zone 2 heart rates for going up the hill. And then as you come down the other side of the hill, naturally your heart rate will lower and you'll get back to Z1, hopefully. If you're doing a Z2 tempo run and you go to up a hill, you can get up, let the heart rate rise up into Z3, just maintaining that steady pace up the hill, and then let the heart rate go back down to zone 2 in the run. You just don't want to go up over the top of the next zone. So if you're doing a zone 1 run, you don't want to see Z3 heart rates. If you're doing a zone 2 run, you don't want to be up over the top of Z3. Just so you keep some sort of rein in on yourself. So just a tip to keep, a steady pace up the hills. And then one last tip is, in the base phase, we do the heaviest part of the strength training cycle. So we start off with just some adaptation work in strength training, and then we get to the max phase strength training sessions. And this is when you'll be lifting the heaviest weights and trying to gain the most strength. What happens though is you get pretty sore doing that max phase lift, and that's just natural. And this is going to happen during base phase. If you feel sore and you have a workout scheduled for that day, just go with it and get the workout done. It's okay to be sore. Because intensity is low during the base phase, you're not risking injury. So you're not going out and running hard intervals. You're all just putting in the miles, just doing recovery runs and aerobic runs. So that was base phase. Next is build phase. This is what most of you are actually in. Actually, both New York City and London half are in build phase right now. So basically what happens here is we add in Z2, we add in tempo work, we add in hills and interval speed training in that order. And then there's also, of course, the usual ZR and Z1 work and strength training. But now the strength training moves to more maintenance work. So before it was get into the gym, lift heavy weights, get stronger. In build phase, that might be the first part of build phase might continue to be heavy weights, but then as build phase progresses, you'll get to a point with the strength training where it's just maintenance work. Now it's more focused on core work and just maintaining muscle mass, doing body weight exercises with TRX, things like that, versus trying to lift heavy weights in the gym. So why do we do this phase? Well, we start to prepare the body for race pace, improve durability as well. So essentially now, instead of just always running the slower miles and just putting in the miles, now we're putting in the miles, but we're starting to run them a bit faster so that your body knows what's about to happen when it has to race at your A race. So tips for the build phase, basically you want to make sure that your running cadence should be at least 86 to 88 steps per minute, and that's just on one side. So just count your left side or your right side when you're doing it during all workouts, except for the hill intervals. A lot of Garmin GPS type watches have a cadence sensor so that it will tell you what your cadence is when you're running. If that's not the case and you're just using a heart rate monitor that doesn't have that, or you're not using heart rate at all and you're just using a regular watch, all you have to do to figure out your running cadence is to count your steps for a minute and see where you're at. So you want to make sure you have good, quick turnover, and that's something to focus on during this phase. So during this phase, like I said, you'll be doing tempo work, so running in Z2. You'll also be doing hill work, which will eventually progress into speed interval work. So definitely some higher end running, which means that it's very, very important to complete recovery workouts very easy. So in between the hard workouts, in between the tempo run and the speed work, and then in between that and your long run, you're going to have ZR runs. And the temptation there is to run those recovery runs too fast. But you have to run them. It's incredibly important, especially in this phase, to go very easy so that you're able to perform well on the more intense days. So there should be a huge differentiation in pace between recovery days and speed days. A lot of times what I see with athletes is they run all their runs at about the same pace. So they go out and they do a recovery run at 10-minute pace, and then their speed work is at 9:45 pace, and then their regular runs are at 9:50 pace, and it's just all one big gray zone. What we want to see is somebody that does their long run at 10-minute pace, their speed work at 9-minute pace, and their recovery runs at 12-minute pace. So you can see there's a big differentiation between all of those. And that's how you improve. Go really, really easy on the easy days, go really, really hard on the hard days, and on the aerobic days, that's sort of the more moderate training. So very important to keep the recovery workouts easy. That might involve walking for a lot of athletes to keep in their heart rate zone, and just also just to make sure recovery is appropriate. You might go, you know, a little walk jog on the recovery days. You get the blood moving, but you don't have a lot of muscle tension. You don't have a lot of tension on the muscles so that they can recover. Okay. Key workouts during build phase. You're going to see something called hill bounding, and you're going to take a look at that, and it's all explained in the workout, but you're going to say, what the heck are they talking about? So basically what hill bounding is you want to find a hill that's about 6 to 10% grade. Don't fret over the grade. Just find a hill, basically, something that resembles a hill. And you want to use the lowest possible cadence. So I just finished telling you that for most of your runs, pretty much for every run except for hill bounding, you want to have quick turnover, high cadence. You want to count and make sure you get 86 to 88 steps per minute. For hill bounding, you actually want to have really long, slow strides, but powerful strides. Hill bounding is designed to build power and also to increase durability in the tissue. Basically, what hill bounding does is it prepares your tissues and your leg muscles to be strong enough to handle traditional interval work or speed work. So for hill bounding, you do your warm-up, and then you do the bounding, so the long, low cadence stride up the hill, and it's hard. It's a hard effort. So you'll be breathing hard. You will be feeling the burn, as you would say, and you will get your heart rate really high. And you do that. You bound up the hill for a minute. And then after the minute is over, you run super, super, super easy, just normal cadence, just jog really, really easy for 3 minutes. Then you run back down the hill using very high cadence, very short stride, very quick turnover. And then you basically start the process over again. And after every third repeat, you do 2 15-second wind sprints or strides, whatever you want to call them. Basically sprint down the road for 15 seconds, take a little break, sprint back up the road for 15 seconds, and then start your next hill. And then you repeat that over and over and over again. And so, you know, your workout will say you have 5 hill bounding repeats, or you have 6, or maybe you only have 3 or 4, depending on your ability and your experience level. And that's how you do the workout. This circuit, like I said, will help build strength and leg speed. It's also the very first introduction into anaerobic work. So it's like I said, it's hard. You'll be breathing hard. You'll get your heart rate up really high. And that's the first time we actually do that in this training. Other key workouts in the build phase is after you're done with a set of hill bounding, then you'll move on to speed interval workouts. And running speed work should be completed at best effort. So you'll see um, a workout that says do 8 repeats of a quarter mile each. And basically for each quarter mile, you're doing the best effort intensity that you can. You're running the hardest you can, knowing that you have to be able to sustain that pace over 8 repeats. So you're not, it's not one and done. You have to have a little bit in the tank left to do the remaining 8. And you want to, again, descend the pace just like you would if you were doing a Z1 run, where you run the first one, say you do the first repeat, quarter mile repeat in 2 minutes. Then the next one you might run 1 minute and 58 seconds. Then the next one you might run 1:57, then 1:56, and so on and so forth, where the last one is your fastest one. And then the workout will also indicate to you how much rest you should take in between each interval. The rest could be very easy jogging. You could continue to jog very easily. You could walk the rest, or you could just stand around and take total rest. Whatever it is you need to do to best complete the workout, that's what you do. It's best to do speed work on a track if you have access to a track, a high school track, a college track, something that you're allowed on to. But if you don't have a track available, a treadmill works, or a very flat stretch of road. Just try not to do it on a very hilly. You want to be able to get the quick turnover and go fast. So you want to give yourself the best possible chance to do that. Okay, so that's the build phase. That then leads us into what I call overload phase. And this is basically the period of training with the biggest volume and the highest intensity of running. Nobody's quite there yet for any of the races. Basically, this is 2 weeks prior to taper. So depending on how long your taper is, sometimes taper is 2 weeks, sometimes it's 3 weeks. But it is, the overload is 2 weeks, the 2 week period prior to that 2 or 3 week taper. So it's about 4 or 5 weeks out from your A race. And this phase is, again, biggest volume, highest intensity. You do your longest long run. Basically, it's the hardest 2 weeks of training. And we do this to prepare the body for race pace. Again, further improve durability. It's just a tough 2 weeks. And after you're done with that, though, you taper. So that's the good news. Once you get to this overload period, you have to just tell yourself, get through this, then I taper. Get through this, then I taper. You will be tired during overload. You will be tired, absolutely. Like I just finished saying, you're doing your hottest workouts, you're doing your longest workouts, you're doing your overall biggest volume. So you will be tired, and that's okay. It's important during overload to try and do the workouts and finish the volume as best as possible. Again, it's very, very important to take the recovery days very easy so that you can actually get through the entire 2 week period and perform well on the harder days. Again, just when you're in the overload period, know that taper is coming soon. So push yourself to complete all the workouts, no matter how tired you are. Take one day at a time, work through it, and you should be good to go. It's taper time after that, and then it's race time. And no matter how tired you are during overload, the taper always cleans you up. It always makes you feel better and gets you ready to race. So, which leads us into taper phase, which is the phase of training where, okay, now we've done all the hard work. The hay, as I like to say, the hay is in the barn. Now it's time to sit back a little, cut back the volume, cut back the intensity, let all the hard work soak in, and prepare for your goal race. Again, let the body rest, let the body recover, soak up all the hard work. That's why we do this. So we beat you up pretty good. Now we're going to rest you, and you're really fit, and you're now through taper, you're going to feel good again. And then it's time to race. So again, this is 2 weeks prior to taper, about, I'm sorry, that shouldn't say 2 weeks prior to taper. It should say about 2 to 3 weeks long leading into your A race. So Again, some tapers for New York City Half, for instance, we have a 2-week taper. For London Marathon, we have a 3-week taper. It just depends on the race. It actually also depends on the athlete, what else is happening, how experienced you are, and all those types of things. So expect 2 to 3 weeks of rest. Now, it's not all rest. It's not like you sit on your butt for 2 weeks and then you race. Obviously, there is still a little bit of intensity. There's a little bit of running to keep you fresh and keep you from getting stale. But it's vastly, especially coming off overload, it's vastly reduced volume. You might feel very sluggish at the start of taper or even throughout the entire taper. When I taper, I feel pretty sluggish and I feel pretty like, oh, I'm never going to feel good again. I'm never going to feel good again. And that's kind of that's to be expected. Some people feel better than others, but it's to be expected that you're going to be tired. You're coming off that big training. You're coming off all the hard work. It's going to take a while for the body to come around. Sleep and rest are the priorities here, so make them as such. You have no excuses. So you go from a lot of running to much less running. Now you have much more time in your day. You can add that extra time that you aren't running or aren't strength training or aren't doing, hard workouts to your sleep schedule instead. If you're feeling, I went on about in overload, try never to skip a workout, try to get through all of them. On the other hand, once you're into taper, and if you're still feeling really sluggish, you're not going to be able to get good sleep on a particular night because you have to be up early for work or blah, blah, blah. A taper is a time to cut a workout, to reduce it in time or, skip it all together in favor of sleep and rest. Take the extra time also in your schedule to make sure you have everything together for your goal race. Now we're only 2 to 3 weeks out from your race, so make sure you have your nutrition all squared away, what you're going to wear on race day. Make sure you have all the logistics of your race all planned in your head, especially if you're traveling. Make sure your race pacing is all set in your head and what you're going to do there. Just get everything all squared away. This is the time to do it. And then that's it. You are through the taper phase, and now at the very end, your reward is the race itself. Super happy, super excited, super time to go. And, I'll definitely be doing another webinar on race pacing and how best to handle, the race day and things like that, but we'll save that for another webinar. So, does anybody have any questions or concerns? It looks like we got a few more attendees here along the way. We picked some people up. So if you have any questions, just type it in the chat or the questions box, and I can answer them. Or if you don't have anything now and you want to, or if you're listening to this after the fact and you just want to email me a question or a concern, you can put it on the forum. Put it on, email me. Here's my email here. It's just beth@therunformula.com. All right, it doesn't look like we have any questions. Okay, so that's that. Again, we recorded this and we'll put it up on the website so that you can listen to it later if you missed it or if you want to listen to it again, and let me know what you need. Thanks, guys.